I'm a student studying integrated marketing communications. I'd like to thank Mr. Eric Brown, Dr. Stephen Freeland, Ms. Carrie Sauter for the marketing opportunity earlier. My advisor, Jill Wrigley, obviously, and my two faculty mentors, Dr. Donald Snyder as well as Mr. Paul Eagle. So to start today, I'd like to actually open with some trivia questions. First question is this. What do bacon and eggs for breakfast, Ivory brand bar soap, and cigarette smoking by women all have in common? If you have any guess, you can answer.
They're gross.
They're gross?
There's an olfactory dimension.
I'm sorry?
Olfactory dimension. The
That
smell.
is not correct, but
Don't contain lard?
it was. The correct answer is that they were all successfully marketed in the 1920s by Mr. Edward Elbowings. He is the father of public relations. He's actually the reason that bacon and eggs today are known as the signature American breakfast. And he also played a large role in the transition of cigarette smoking by women from something that was mostly done in private to something that had a kind of cool factor in public spheres. One more question for you. So what do he, Mr. Bernays, and Sigmund Freud, the father of psychoanalysis, both have in common? Yes?
Bernays is Freud's nephew.
That is correct.
Oh,
Freud was Bernays' uncle, and Bernays actually adopted Freud's psychoanalytic theory into his marketing communications. He would even go so far as to consult with professional psychoanalysts for his clients' marketing campaigns. So that kind of demonstrates the interdisciplinary basis of marketing, because Bernays' campaigns were some of the most successful and effective in American history. But today, I mean, Bernays' marketing communications primarily took place through print media, but we live in a time period where Google makes more through just advertisements than the entire print industry makes combined. So the thing about marketing is that as people's lifestyles shift, the types of advertising media that they trust and are interested in engaging with also changes. So my capstone question was, what strategies are most effective for entrepreneurial marketing today? So I researched this question, I found my answers, and I also applied it to a real-world brand called Jazz Shoots, which is a limited liability company. It's not mine, the website's not mine, but they decided to adopt some of my marketing strategies into their campaigns, which I'll tell you more about later. But as I said, the main purpose of this project is to gain a deeper understanding of what it means to engage with consumers today, because what they trust and are interested in has also changed. My primary methodology for this project included a literature review, where I summarized and elaborated upon marketing material and stuff also from entrepreneurship, psychology, MCS, media and communication studies. I also investigated Jazz Shoots directly. I did a SWOT analysis. We established metrics for their social presence and other things like that. I also gained personal insights from marketers locally in Baltimore. And I also researched the approaches that professional marketing practitioners are reporting as having the highest return on investment and result in the most engagement and activity from their audiences. So those were the primary methods I used, but in the process I also acquired an inbound marketing certification from HubSpot, which is a prevalent marketing agency in the US. So you may have guessed by now that the primary disciplinary perspectives for me are marketing, psychology, MCS, and entrepreneurship. And the way that I bridge these disciplines mostly was through creating compound concepts. This is where you take the domains of two different disciplines, combine them to create a new, more specific field of study. So for example, I took media and communication studies, I took psychology, took their domains and combined them together to create media psychology. Media psychology is a field that focuses on the ways that emerging media technologies affect the ways that we interpret, perceive, and interact with each other and with technologies in a media-rich world. So you can kind of imagine how that might be important for marketing communications today. But if you can't, these are examples of some of the key concepts I gathered from my compound concepts. For example, for media psychology, web navigation is the idea that we become more adept at navigating through the internet. And we also become almost second nature in the ways that we can evade advertisements online. There's also a concept of social timing, where there are actually researched and demonstrated times of the day where people are more willing to engage with you on social media. For example, on Twitter, between 1 p.m. and 5 p.m., you're most likely to get retweets or clicks or favorites. And on Instagram, between 5 p.m. and 6 p.m., you're most likely to get likes and things like that. In consumer psychology, there's the concept of benefits over features. That's where instead of just sharing what you're selling exactly, you explain in an emotional way how it might better your consumers' lives. So for example, if I was selling to you a speaker system, I wouldn't just say to you that, well, I wouldn't open by telling you that it has this range of hertz. What I would do is I would tell you that this speaker system has the ability to offer you clear and crisp sound throughout a big room like this, or such as your home, or something like that. Entrepreneurial marketing, there's a practitioner named Seth Godin who wrote a book called The Purple Cab, and it talks about how to be remarkable in oftentimes oversaturated markets, and that's a very important piece to entrepreneurial marketing. So my capstone question was, what strategies are most effective for entrepreneurial marketing today? Well, these are actually the answers right here. Content marketing being the first. Now, this is a concept where you share informational content that your audiences will value, and because of that, they'll be more interested in learning more about you as well. So the fact that I'm standing here today offering you this content makes all of you actually more likely to come to me for marketing advice or to visit jazzshoots.com. Inbound strategies are a part of content marketing, where you make all of your content search engine optimized so that people can find your stuff. But since they're seeking what you're interested in and they're interested in it, you already know that they're interested in you. Tactical web design is where you design your website to guide buyers through their decision process. So you'll want landing pages, you'll want things like calls to action where you encourage buyers to progress through their decision process by maybe providing more information or taking further action right there. Proactive media relations is important because external media sources are some of the most trustworthy sources in the eyes of consumers, according to research data and surveys and things like that. So if you can have an external media source put a positive spin on your brand image, then people are more likely to trust what you have to offer than you just telling it to them yourself. Social media marketing is where you also post content, but the goal here is to actually lead consumers back to your primary webpage, and that's where they'll be able to take further action. So all of these things are integrated together to make a very effective and proactive campaign. And then there's also events and being humane and personal. So jazzshoots.com is a company that does music festival photography. It also does multimedia services such as web design and videography. This is a screenshot of their website as of last week. As you can see, it doesn't actually include any of the best practices of marketing campaigns or consumer engagement. So I haven't formally designed a visual mock-up of what their new site should include, but my project does outline specifically how they can go about making those changes. These are examples of external media outlets that would be beneficial to a music festival brand, specifically Jazz Shoots, which is located in Brooklyn, New York and Silver Spring, Maryland. Things like The New Yorker, Time Out New York, US Weekly, and The Source. And there's many others. I found about 46 of these, and they're listed and outlined in my campaign. As for events, I came up with the idea for a collaborative event between brand Hennessy and hip-hop superstar Nas. That would be one where Jazz Shoots is the exclusive media provider, and we'll also conduct an interview of Nas. Now, this is actually going to happen this summer. It's not just an idea. And a similar thing is happening with hip-hop artist Common next week. On the top right here, you see a mock tweet. It's not real, but it's an example of the type of content that could be posted to Twitter. Now, it would include an attachment of an infographic, and you'll notice that it has a popular hashtag, and it also encourages you to go back to the primary webpage. If you look closely, though, you see the time period in which it's supposed to be posted at 3:41 p.m., which is within the primary Twitter use time. Now, the bottom tweet there is real, and I post that because you want to have some contrast in your Twitter posts. You don't want to just sound like a business trying to get you to the site, obviously. So this is being personable and real. This is from an event that happened about 2 weeks ago with hip-hop artist and singer-songwriter Erykah Badu. And what she's doing here is actually signing pictures that Jazz Shoots actually printed for her. Another example here, that's Erykah Badu with probably the best bass guitarist of the last decade, Thundercat. This is a picture by Jazz Shoots that was posted by OK Player, which is a popular media outlet. And this image got over 1,000 likes, and Jazz Shoots was tagged in the image, so they gained a lot of attention through this. So to conclude, integrated marketing communications is the closest thing that professional marketing practitioners today are doing to what I'm suggesting. But what I really encourage is that we kind of take it back to Edward L. Bernays, and we do more interdisciplinary integrated marketing communications explicitly, where we think of the psychological factors and the media communications factors that are impacting the way that consumers involve themselves. So that's about it.
Just a clarification, did you say you came up with the media psychology compound concept?
Oh, media psychology is a real field, but it is a compound concept.
Right, and so have you done research in that, like who's doing work in media psychology? It's an interesting compound concept, but like who's doing work in that field?
I don't have specific names right now of the scholars, but I did use a lot of scholarly research from media psychologists.
Okay, yeah, because I just noticed there was a research center there. So your paper cites sources from the research center in media psychology?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
So I guess building directly off Professor McAlpine, I've got a rubric item here which says, business speak provide context for how this research relates to the field, what other experts are doing. Could you help me understand that?
Oh, well, so integrated marketing communications is a real field. That's what my degree is titled. It's basically a way to make your content reinforceable, and the different content that you post reinforces each other. That's a real thing that practitioners are doing right now, but no one is really explicitly thinking of interdisciplinary approaches in their marketing campaigns.
So it's the making explicit is what you're saying you're contributing to this field.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
I was wondering why huge artists such as Nas and Common would pick Jazz Shoots if their website is just not up to par, like you said.
Right. Well, a part of it comes from being present at events and making events yourself. So obviously the website, in my opinion, needs a lot of improvement. But if you're out in the field and you're proactively seeking people, then you might get lucky, or you might just be good enough for yourself. Yes.
What improvements are you going to make to this site?
The site will include landing pages that are search engine optimized using keywords that people seeking photography services might be searching into Google, something like that. And it'll also include calls to action where people can provide their information to learn more about the brand and what they can do for you. And it will also have more about benefits versus features. There's a tab on the website that kind of just says what they can do instead of kind of providing the benefits to consumers. Yes?
I'm wondering, in working with Jazz Shoots, it's an acquaintance, someone you had known
Right.
previously, right?
Right.
If there were particular moments of learning for her, the owner-operator is a woman, right?
Right.
With regard to these various strategies, is there any insight you gained from working with her about how to communicate what you're trying to do
Right.
in this field?
Excuse me. Well, definitely, she had almost no metrics established for her brand, which is an almost basic part of marketing. You need to see if your approaches are kind of leading into where you want to be going. So that's something that we established, and it's, that's one thing that's going better for her. There are other examples in the campaign where I list out, opportunities and threats and things like that that she's not really addressing in her. So.
Well, thank you very much once again.
All right.